Hello traders, it's another week, and instead of looking at new successful challenges, we are gonna look at failed ones. Once again, hello traders, I'm Simon from FTMO, and if you are new here, what we are doing is that we are funding successful traders that are able to pass our evaluation process. And in our videos, we have already covered quite many successful challenges. So in this video, we are gonna make it a little bit different, and we are gonna cover some of the failed challenges. And we are doing this because we wanna not only spice things up, but also because we have received so much feedback and so many comments demanding for this video. So here it is. And of course, keep more feedback coming. And without further ado, let's do this. Looking at the balance curve, you can see that it doesn't look even that bad. You can see that he reached half of his profit target, or almost half of his profit target right here. Half of his profit target right here, even almost here, or rather above half of his profit target here. But then from his 46th trade, he just went downhill, and that pretty much, I think, caused him to violate this challenge. And this trader was actually trading quite nicely until this point. You can see that he used 5 of his trading days, and on his 5th day, he probably violated the challenge. And it was max daily loss that was violated. The max loss was actually pretty far from being breached. Now in the end, you can see that he made at least some profit. So, you know, that's nice, but it's still violated, so that doesn't really matter, doesn't really count. You know, I would probably recommend to this trader to just use those stop losses, because exactly this shouldn't really happen. And, you know, using stop losses will certainly prevent this. So he just used those 5 trading days, and after those 5 trading days he decided that he is not gonna be really that patient, and even though he had so much time ahead of him, he just decided to risk more than he should have. Now when I look at the daily summary, you know, he used quite huge volume here, and he used even huge volume in the beginning of the trading period, so that's not a big deal. He is probably used to it, but either he should have decreased his volume or use those stop losses. And when I look at the trading journal, you can already see that, for example, this position right here ended up in quite a huge loss. It's minus $5,500, and you can exactly see that there was no stop loss. For these positions, they were not really problematic, and he used stop losses for them. So essentially what I'm saying is that if he used stop loss for this position, he would be still in the game, but he decided for some reason not to, so yeah, unfortunately this happened. It is also a good idea to look at which symbols are not really profitable for you, and in this case it's a British pound and USD, and that's minus $5,462. Now, of course, most of this loss is probably consisted of this position. That's actually quite obvious. But still, if you have multiple positions opened for one instrument and you can see that you are losing all the time on this instrument, you should probably avoid it. You can also see that he did quite well on those low volumes, but when he increased his volume to 20 lots, it just broke his account. So yeah, I mean, this is it for this account. That's really unfortunate that he didn't use stop loss right here, because if he did, there is a high chance that he would do just fine. So yeah, let's look at another one. So this one is, I guess, pretty self-explanatory. You can see that throughout the trading period, he is all the time in some sort of loss. Here it's really bad, you know, he had like $760 left not to breach this max loss limit, but still he got out of that, or just a little bit. He still wasn't in a profit, but not a big loss really, for example right here. But then from here, that just blew his account. So in the trading objectives section, you can see that this is just a huge loss. The same goes for max loss and the profit target. And you know, when you compare the equity and balance here, these numbers are different. And you know, I have worked at customer support department at FTMO, and I have seen that sometimes our clients don't really understand how max daily loss limit and max loss limit work, and we always calculate these two from the equity, not balance. So essentially, equity takes into consideration not only your closed positions, but also your open positions, which is a huge difference. We do care about your open positions, and that actually makes sense, because if we didn't care about open positions, but just about closed positions, that would actually motivate the client not to close losing positions at all. So let's say, for example, that I had $100,000 account and I was in $50,000 loss, but it's not a closed loss. So if this didn't count, I would just never close this position. And you can already feel that this doesn't really work, because if I was on FTMO account in minus $50,000, there is quite huge chance that I would wipe out the whole account. And that's exactly why we care about open losses. Now, another thing to point out here, this trader traded for just 8 days, so on his 8th day he just blew the account, unfortunately, but he still had the time to get to at least some profit. And you all know that if you respect minimum trading days, max daily loss limit, max loss limit, and if you are at least in some profit, you are eligible for a free repeat of the challenge. So even though you are not able to reach the profit target, but you are at least in some profit and you respect the rest of the trading objectives, you get another chance free of charge. So that's pretty good in my opinion. But unfortunately, in this case, this trader decided not to trade very safely, in a safe manner. So you can clearly see right here, he opened with one position, with just one trade, 50 lots, and that pretty much just wiped half of the account. Now, just to demonstrate the point from the previous account, you can see that he lost the most on Euro USD, but you know, this is probably exactly this position, so it's not really that relevant. Okay, so I think that this is it for this account. Let's look at another one. Okay, so this one is also for $100,000. The balance curve is looking quite good. You know, most of the time he is in a loss, but that doesn't really matter because he gets out of that and he is in a profit. For example, right here he was actually really close to being at his profit target. Even like here he was really super close. I'm of course not sure if there were some open positions which were pushing down his equity, so I don't know. But chances are that he was really close to passing the challenge right here. Now from this point it's kind of calm and steady trading, but from this point at trade number 324, it's pretty much downhill from there. And I suspect that in this case it's also the stop losses which he didn't set. So let's scroll to the trading journal and yeah, pretty much you can see that he didn't use any stop losses at all. Now just a reminder, you absolutely don't have to set those stop losses, but in some cases it can really help a lot and probably save the account, which is in this case probably. What I also suspect that could have happened is that he was pretty excited right here because he accumulated some of those profits. So right here or around here he decided to pretty much rush things and to just go to the finish line. So he probably upped his risk, and that pretty much decided the whole trading period. So because some traders become really excited once they are in at least some profit, when they are trading quite nicely, they just want to quickly go to the finish line, and that pretty much causes them to fail. And since it is super important to us that you are consistent and that you are patient, you should just keep the same strategy and it will probably take you to the finish line. You know, you don't necessarily have to finish the challenge in 11 or 10 training days. You can take even 20 if you need. So essentially just don't trade any setups that you are not comfortable with. Don't trade randomly, don't martingale. Just pretty much trade your strategy and stick to it. Now I could touch on another subject here, and that is that he is mostly losing money on S&P 500. So in this case, since he executed quite many trades actually, If he avoided S&P 500, he would be more profitable, or at the very least he wouldn't really lose that much. Okay, so I feel that I have nothing to add to this one, so let's look at another one. Okay, so here the balance curve isn't really that bad. Most of the time he was in a loss, which is not a big deal if in the end you manage to get your profit target, which he did manage here. Even he respected the max loss and the minimum trading days, but unfortunately he violated the max daily loss limit. And from this pattern in his daily summary, you can see that he tried to get those minimum trading days in, but unfortunately chances are that the max daily loss limit was already violated. So I suspect that this client didn't really know how max daily loss is violated, or he didn't really check his account matrix as we are doing right now. So once again, I am just reminding you that max daily loss limit is calculated from your equity, not balance. So that means that we are taking into consideration not just closed trades, but also your open positions. And you know, if the challenge was still running, you would see some numbers here which indicate how much else you can lose in any given day. So I would recommend to always visit your account matrix and see your today's permitted loss. So honestly, I don't think that this one was due to greed or fear or any other psychology mistake, but probably because this trader didn't really read about our trading objectives and how they are calculated. And just keep in mind that even though the profit target may be finished, that it doesn't mean that you passed the challenge, because you still have to respect the max loss, you still have to respect max daily loss and the minimum trading days. So I would highly recommend to always read through the trading objectives that are available on our website. Alright, so this was pretty quick. Let's look at another one. So the balance curve right here is not looking that good at all, and in the end he just went down and down in a steady fashion and violated the challenge. And what I sense here is the issue is probably the position sizing. So you can see that he started off with quite low volume, then he doubled that right here, then he came back to just 5 lots, and then pretty much he went all out, which I think caused the violation in this case. So honestly, I don't know what was the main issue here. It of course could be the trading system that he chose to trade with. It could be the unreal position sizing, as you can see right here, but in the end we don't know. And you know, we never recommend to start the challenge if you are not ready or if you are not sure that you can beat it. In the end it still costs some money. For some people it's quite a lot of money, so it doesn't really make sense to lose it. So if you are not sure if you should take the challenge or not, there's always an option to start your free trial and test out our system and test your strategy. And sometimes we even recommend to start the free trial when you violated the challenge to get back on track, to test out your strategy, get familiar with our system and account matrix, etc. Because in the end, you know, we just want you to succeed in the challenge and become FTMO traders, but at the same time, we don't want to risk more than we have to. So it doesn't really make sense for you to pay the initial fee if you are not sure whether you can beat the challenge or not. Now I have scrolled through the account a little bit, and I have found out that he is losing most of the money on British pound and US dollar. And also he is losing mostly on buying instead of selling. So probably he should avoid buying and definitely avoid buying British pound against USD. So the main message for this account is to avoid certain instruments that are not really working well for your strategy, and definitely avoid substantial increases in your traded volume. Okay, so now let's look at another account. And this one is quite unfortunate because the balance curve doesn't look half bad. It looks actually pretty good because most of the time he's actually in profit as far as I can see. But from this point on, he just went into a loss and violated the challenge. Now he traded for just 6 days, but once again, I have a feeling that he wanted to quickly get to the finish line, so he started to risk more, and because of that, he just violated the challenge. And it wasn't really max loss, it was actually max daily loss, which caused him to failed this account. And when I scroll through the daily summary, well, he is actually using quite huge volumes throughout the entire trading period, which in this case is just 6 days. So I don't know how this would continue. But, if you are in a profit, there is still option for you to wait for that free repeat of the challenge. So once again, I'm reminding you, if you manage to meet those minimum trading days, if you manage to meet the max daily loss and max loss, and you are at least at some profit, you are eligible for free repeat of the challenge. And it makes sense to use it. We all know that profit target of 10% is not really that small profit target, but it is not something unreal. It is absolutely doable, but sometimes the trading conditions are not really in your favor. And in that case, you should definitely respect your loss limits, get at least some profit in there, and then wait for that free repeat of the challenge. Then you can wait for better trading conditions and just move on. And the same is true for the verification phase. Now there is even less pressure in the verification. You have those 60 days to finish it, and there is just profit target of 5%. So that's totally manageable. And even if you don't get that profit target on the verification phase, there is still this free repeat of the challenge. So yes, even if you don't manage to meet that profit target on the verification phase, which is just 5%, you are able to get that free repeat of the challenge without paying any initial fee. Now, of course, you get back to the beginning, but it's still better than paying for another challenge account. Now to talk a little more about this account, you can see that he actually used those stop losses, but here in this case, you can see that he opened 50 lots. Here he opened 30 lots. So this one is probably a revenge trade for this one. So in these cases, you should really manage your psychology. We have our performance psychologist, and she can help you quite a lot with this, but definitely don't revenge trade. And finally, down here you can see that he lost mostly on Euro and Swiss. So of course, he should probably avoid that. Okay traders, so this is pretty much it. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any questions whatsoever, and if you have any feedback. If you think that I have missed anything, just let me know. And if you want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe to our FTMO YouTube channel. Also follow FTMO on social media. And as always, trade safe.